Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining today's National Women's Business Council's December 2016 public meeting. With that, it's my pleasure to turn things over to Carla Harris, Chair of the National Women's Business Council. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Operator. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carla Harris, and I am the Chair of the National Women's Business Council appointed by President Obama in 2013. Thank you so much for joining us for our December 2016 public meeting, and our theme today is United We Thrive, Sustaining Our Momentum in Corporate and Public Arenas. As many of you know, the National Women's Business Council was established by H.R. 5050 as a federal advisory council to the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Congress, and the White House, and our focus is on issues of impact and importance to women business owners and women leaders. It is the Council's job to equip the nation's decision makers, both public and private, with policy recommendations that will impact and improve the business climate for women in our country. We do this by producing best-in-class research on the most relevant issues facing current and aspiring women business owners. Our hope is to use compelling and rigorous research to incite action and build bridges to support women's entrepreneurial ambitions and endeavors. This meeting is officially called to order at 2:05. Let's start with an official roll call of the council members. Please say present when I call your name. Marsha Bailey, Rosanna Privatera-Biondo. If folks are on mute, please unmute.
This is Marsha Bailey.
Okay, great. Thank you. Kimberly Blackwell.
Present.
Thank you. Carrie Warburg-Block.
Present.
Sherry Stewart-Deutschman.
Present.
Jen Earl.
Present.
Pam Prince-Eason.
Present.
Anne-Shybunko-Moore.
Present.
And Rose Wang.
Present.
Dr. Marsha Firestone, have you joined us?
Yes, I have. Present.
Oh, outstanding. Thank you very much, council members. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your National Women's Business Council. Today, the council will share research findings from its latest report on supplier diversity. The report is entitled Supply and Demand, Perspectives on Women's Participation in Corporate Supplier Diversity Programs. We will discuss this through a panel with our council member, Pam Prince-Eason, and lead researchers from PQC Consulting. We just put this on our website this morning, so check it out at www.nwbc.gov. Administrator Maria Contreras-Sweet from the U.S. Small Business Administration and Meredith West from the Senate Committee on Small Business Entrepreneurship will join us after the research panel to discuss the last term's accomplishments and perspectives on issues of impact to women business owners in the near future. Post-panel and speakers will have some time to hear from you too, as we always do. We value your input and want to be sure to respond to any questions and comments you might have. That is all for our agenda and our housekeeping. So to frame today's conversation, let me start off by saying that the momentum has not and will not stop. 2016 has been a very productive year for the National Women's Business Council and a year full of progress for women entrepreneurs. The Senate and the House Small Business Committees each passed bills that aim to raise the grant ceiling for the Women's Business Center program for the first time since the original authorization, H.R. 5050, created this program in 1988. In June, the White House convened the first ever national summit focusing on women, the United States of Women, looking at gender issues across all areas. While women entrepreneurs have always been a backbone of this country's economy, this unprecedented action by America's federal government recognizes the influence that women business owners continue to have on its growth and its success. In March, the NWBC released a report based on data from the Survey of Business Owners and Self-Employed Persons, confirming that women-owned businesses now comprise 36% of the country's businesses, and women continue to enter the ranks of U.S. business ownership at rates far exceeding the national average. These firms generate over $1.4 trillion in sales and employ over 8 million people. While these numbers demonstrate that women-owned businesses are strong and that women's entrepreneurial spirit and appetite for risk are solid, other data, however, raises questions. Only 2% of women-owned firms have more than 10 employees, while 91% of women-owned firms have no employees other than the owner. The Council concluded through our research that information about capital, tactics, and resources available to help women move from origination to critical mass, i.e. scaling, remains a challenge. As a result, in each of our 4 public meetings this year, the Council delivered relevant and tangible information that could immediately advance women-owned businesses. And, most importantly, we created Grow Her Business, an online platform of nearly 200 growth-oriented programs that support entrepreneurs to obtain capital, build industry knowledge, develop the skills needed to meet high-growth objectives, and to scale their business at every stage of its development. The Council also engaged policymakers on supporting women to enter new marketplaces. Per our research, on average, men start their businesses with nearly twice as much capital as women, $135,000 versus $75,000. This disparity is slightly larger among firms with high growth potential. The Council called on the full entrepreneurship ecosystem to address these disparities and explore innovative ways to increase investment in women-owned businesses. In July, I testified in front of the Joint Economic Committee on the topic of encouraging entrepreneurship, growing business, not bureaucracy. Beginning with an examination of debt, I discussed the need for federal regulation to support programs that make it easier for women-owned small businesses to acquire loans. Council research finds that women were more likely to be discouraged from applying for loans and were denied at a higher rate than men. I pointed to the U.S. Small Business Administration's Community Advantage and microloan programs as exemplary models that should be expanded and replicated both in the private and the public sector to bring greater access to debt capital to women borrowers. When I first joined NWBC as chair in 2013, we sought to build bridges among influencers, institutions, and entrepreneurs, leveraging the power of research and collaboration so that we could all be more effective in our efforts to impact the business climate for women. Last year in 2015, our country reached the milestone breakthrough of 10 million women-owned businesses, and we witnessed the renewal of NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, enabling sole sourcing for women-owned businesses in America. This year, 2016, was marked by the Council's drive to more deeply understand the varied experiences of the subpopulations that make up this rich diversity of women entrepreneurs, and to illuminate ways that the public and private sectors could facilitate their growth. Now more than ever, each piece of the ecosystem must focus and execute to support greater job expansion and a strengthened economy by advancing women entrepreneurs. Let me now turn it over to my partner, Councilmember Anne-Shybunko-Moore, Chair of the Research Committee, to give you a brief update on our outstanding research portfolio. Anne?
Thank you so much, Carla, and I truly appreciate your continued leadership and support with NWBC. As Carla stated, I am Anne-Shybunko-Moore, and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Research Committee for the National Women's Business Council. The Council views research as the springboard to action, and our portfolio spans projects in each of our 4 focused pillars. These pillars are data, access to capital, access to markets, and job creation and growth. We've had a full year delivering on this promise, both in our analysis of existing data and also in the production of original research products. I'd like to share some of those highlights with you. Last October, we released a new toolkit called How to Build an Effective Social Network, which is a resource for women to build and leverage strategic social networks. The recommendations in this toolkit were derived from the 2015 Council research entitled Structural Differences in Women's and Men's Social Networks. And then in March, we produced over 60 fact sheets, allowing individuals quick and easy access to the finalized survey of business owner data. This examined industry, age, veteran status, race, ethnicity, and broke these out then by state. Please check them out on our website, www.nwbc.gov. Now, Carla has already mentioned the release of Grow Her Business, the online searchable repository of nearly 200 premier growth-oriented programs. And then in June, we completed the first part of our original research on supplier diversity, the second half of which will be discussed later on today. The initial report analyzed women business owners' perspectives on corporate supplier diversity programs through a first-of-its-kind survey of over 800 women-owned businesses. And now to move into this fiscal year, at the beginning of October, we released the first of a series of planned NWBC studies into subpopulations of female business owners, which will be released over the coming year. Jointly commissioned by NWBC and the SBA's Office of Advocacy, the Council contracted with Walker's Legacy, a global women in business collective, to develop a report looking more deeply into the experience of Black women business owners. And this is entitled Black Women Entrepreneurs, Past and Present Conditions of Black Women's Business Ownership. As of 2012, there were nearly 3.8 million businesses owned by women of color. In 2002, there were fewer than 1 million minority women-owned businesses. The Council created a research portfolio to further understand the diverse experiences of women entrepreneurs. With that intention, this year, NWBC contracted with 9 new research studies, including 1, necessity as driver for women's entrepreneurship. And this will study whether and how women turn to entrepreneurship to meet their income needs. The second is Hispanic women entrepreneurship, and this looks at an investigation of Latina entrepreneurs. Number 3 is millennial women entrepreneurs, a project that will allow the Council to fund innovative and groundbreaking research. The fourth, crowdfunding as a source of capital, an effort to assess the effectiveness of crowdfunding campaigns for women entrepreneurs seeking capital. 5, social entrepreneurship amongst women. This is a project that will explore the hypothesis that women may have a particular interest in this type of socially conscious business venture. 6, commercialization amongst women in the STEM fields. Research that will identify the factors that influence differential trends in male and female intellectual property development, commercialization, and business ownership in those STEM fields. Number 7, women, veterans, and business. This is a study of women veteran business owners. Number 8, growth out of the small business designation, a project that will illuminate ways to support women business owners as they continue to grow. And 9, survey development on women-owned and women-led businesses, which is our effort to catalog and really fill the gaps left in the data available on women in business. In addition to the literature review and the preliminary data analysis that you will see released over the next few months, I want you to please stay tuned for the completion of the 2 multi-year research projects: an investigation of women's participation in accelerators and incubators, and our look into entrepreneurship ecosystems and their service of women entrepreneurs. All of these projects will make their debut in early 2017. So I encourage all of you to head over to our website. Please click on these reports and take a look. We promote this research to encourage dialogue between women entrepreneurs and thought leaders, policymakers, and other stakeholders to help develop and identify policies, as well as recommendations that reflect the needs of women entrepreneurs and women business owners and support the growth of women business ventures. So thank you so much for participating on today's call, and I will now turn the meeting over to Councilmember Kimberly Blackwell, who is the chair of the National Women's Business Council, for your updates on communications and engagement. Again, thank you so much. Kim?
Thank you, Anne, and good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Kimberly Blackwell, and I'm pleased to present you with some update on the Council's communication and engagement activities. The Council strategically aligns its cutting-edge research and stakeholder engagement to be actionable and ultimately to drive policy change. As part of its statutory requirement, 4 public meetings are required each year, and the Council chooses to execute these both in person and via webinar. This past year, all 4 public meetings have exceeded 250 participants in attendance and attended by a wide variety of stakeholders. We hope that you will continue to spread the word to have others join in the critical dialogue. Public meetings allow the Council to share research findings and convene stakeholders to network, share pertinent information, and identify opportunities for mutual support. These meetings also cover recommendations to support women entrepreneurs to develop, to grow, and to sustain their thriving businesses. As we speak, the Council is on its way to releasing our 2016 annual report. Look for it on our website. Again, that's www.nwbc.gov during the week of December 12th. We've had a busy and, more importantly, impactful year, and I'd like to again thank the staff, Madam Chair, and the passion and commitment of an engaged Council. To that point, here are some of the Council highlights. From Costa Mesa, California to New Orleans, Louisiana, Columbus, Ohio, Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, Illinois, our nation's capital, the National Women's Business Council has conducted over 50 stakeholder engagement activities to engage entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders, policymakers, and researchers in the policy-making process. The Council has also earned prime media placements and meaningful coverage in top national media outlets, including but not limited to the coverage received by Fortune Magazine, Business Insider, CNBC, Bloomberg News, the Huffington Post, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Black Enterprise, to name a few. This strengthened and enhanced awareness within the business environment on the state of women entrepreneurship as women continue to launch, diversify, collaborate strategically, scale up, and conquer new levels of success. Throughout the year, the Council was also able to bring attention to priority issues by creating innovative vehicles to share relevant information. For example, this year we reignited with a more targeted iteration our #HerOwnBoss storytelling series of young women entrepreneurs who began their business ventures as students, titled #HerOwnBoss Student Edition. As we're well underway into fiscal year 17, new fiscal years always appropriately kick off every October with National Women's Small Business Month, one of our favorite months of the year, of course. As a part of the United States of Women movement, Esther Morales, the Council's new executive director, spoke on a panel hosted by the United States of Women, Brava Investments, and DC-based incubator 1776 about how to look at empowering women with sources and access to capital. Aligned with our theme of empowerment, the Council launched her #HerOwnBoss Bosses Give Back edition, where we highlighted women entrepreneurs known for their socially conscious business ventures that create social impact in their communities and beyond. You can learn more about these women and find their profiles, again, on the website, www.nwbc.gov. The Council also hit the road to engage women in STEM. Councilmember Teresa Nelson worked with the SBA's Office of Investment and Innovation to execute a flagship pre-conference day focused on women to increase women entrepreneurs' applications for SBA Small Business Innovative Research, otherwise known as SBIR grants. In New York City, Council member Carrie Warburg Block led a panel at Ernst & Young VNY's Entrepreneurial Winning Women's Summit on how women in business and women business owners can participate in the policy-making process. During the busy month of October, the Council also furthered its commitment to see greater diversity and leadership by joining SBA Small Business Investment Companies, SBIC, program's On Board initiative. On Board, the Open Network for Board Diversity, is a public-private partnership with LinkedIn. Council Chair Carla Harris then gave a riveting keynote for the Greater Women's Business Council in Atlanta on the difference between mentorship and sponsorship and how to maximize success for women business enterprises. She continued this momentum in New York, where Carla participated in the She Global Media She Summit and in an inspiring talk on how bringing your whole self to your career can be of impact. As November came to a close, and with the advent of the White House most recent announcement declaring November to be National Entrepreneurship Month, we are pleased to announce a new partnership through the broadcast platforms with the TV show Women's Business Report, which will air the fourth Sunday of each month. Please, a shout out to the producer, Alvin Jones, for reaching out to the Council. We invite you to stay tuned and find out more information on the website regarding the Women's Business Report partnership. As we head into a transition year, it's important to know that the Council will not miss a beat, and we need you there with us every step of the way. So please make sure to save the following dates for our 2017 in-person and online public meetings. Wednesday, March 8th, 2017, Wednesday, May 10th, 2017, Wednesday, August 9th, 2017, and our January meeting is scheduled, and the correct date can also be found on the website. I believe it's the 10th. I apologize for not having right in front of me. But please go to www.nwbc.gov. We would love to have you in all 4 meetings and, again, invite you to bring others into the mission. With that said, I now introduce you to Councilmember Pam Prince-Eason, who will discuss the Council's latest research on access to private markets for women's business owners.
Thank you, Kim. I am thrilled to be on the line with all of you this afternoon for what I know will be an engaging and truly necessary conversation about a topic that, as President and CEO of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council and as a council member of the National Women's Business Council, is truly important to me, and that's women's participation in corporate supplier diversity programs. As of this morning, the National Women's Business Council's latest research report, entitled Supply and Demand Perspectives on Women's Participation in Corporate Supplier Diversity Programs, is live on our website. Before we begin our discussion of this latest action-oriented research produced by the National Women's Business Council, let me introduce myself and my conversation partners. First, in addition to serving on the National Women's Business Council, as was mentioned earlier, I am President and CEO of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. Many of you know that as WeBank. WeBank was founded in 1997, and we are the largest third-party certifier of businesses owned, operated, and controlled by women in the United States. We're a national 501c3 nonprofit, and we have 14 regional partner organizations that are part of our network. They provide world-class standard for certification to women-owned businesses throughout the country. I'm pleased to introduce to you today Emma Broming, Associate at Premier Quantitative Consulting, and Lee Upton III, Senior Consultant at Premier Quantitative Consulting. These researchers have been partnering with the National Women's Business Council over the last year to produce the report that has been released today, again named Supply and Demand Perspectives on Women's Participation in Corporate Supplier Diversity Programs. Emma, would you like to say a few brief introductory words?
Thank you, Pam. We just want to say that it's a pleasure to be here speaking with you today, and we wanted to let you all know that PQC is a small, women-owned economic and public policy research firm based in Orlando, Florida.
Thank you. Just one quick housekeeping thing before we get started. For everyone online, our Twitter handle is @NWBC. We'd love to take this conversation online for those who are not able to join us today. You can tweet your questions, as we will be monitoring all of those tweets. You can also use the chat functionality of this web conference to send any questions that you have. There will be a question and answer session at the end of the meeting, and we hope to engage as many of you as listeners as possible. And now, Emma and Lee, again, we're so glad to have you here to discuss the research that you've conducted in partnership with the National Women's Business Council on supplier diversity. Again, supply and demand perspectives on women's participation in corporate supplier diversity programs. This is a wonderful opportunity to share the challenges and opportunities of these programs with all of our stakeholders gathered on today's call. As always, we seek to inspire action by increasing understanding of supplier diversity and offering recommendations that will improve outcomes for both corporations and women business owners.
Thank you, Pam. First, as you know, corporate supplier diversity programs are the formal efforts made by corporations to include businesses owned by underrepresented populations, such as women, into their supply chains. We know that women business owners want to grow, and these programs have been heralded as opportunities for such businesses to scale up by securing high-value contracts and sustainable business.
You're right. Business-to-business sales represent a huge opportunity for women-owned businesses to scale up. In fact, according to data released in 2015, 20 corporations that comprise the membership of the Billion Dollar Roundtable spent over $75 billion with over 13,000 diverse suppliers. In order for a women-owned business to explicitly engage in corporate supplier diversity programs, the business owner must demonstrate that the business is, in fact, women-owned. A company is women-owned in the formal sense of a woman or women who own 51% of the company and are in charge of the day-to-day management of those activities. The process of certification, such as those through third-party certifiers like WeBank, as well as the National Women's Business Owners Corporation, the U.S. Women's Chamber of Commerce, or the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, allows women to formally demonstrate this qualification. Certification statuses exist for other business categories as well, such as minority, veteran-owned, gay, lesbian, disabled, and many more. Certification is required for participation in many federal procurement set-aside programs as well.
Exactly. But while we are learning more about federal procurement challenges and successes with every passing year, and it's clear from the data that milestones are being met, such as the 5% federal contracting goal with women-owned small businesses, not much formal research has been done about the success of corporate supplier diversity programs in elevating women-owned businesses. To that end, the National Women's Business Council contracted with PQC, Inc. to learn more about these programs. Our research used a holistic approach to learn about and include multiple perspectives on a complex issue. The key project goals were 1, develop an understanding of how and why women interact with supplier diversity programs. 2, understand the barriers that women face and the corporate perspective on those barriers. And 3, identify areas for improvement and opportunities for women to tap into this valuable market. To do so, we solicited information from 3 different important components of the supplier diversity ecosystem. First, the National Women's Business Council conducted a survey of business owners detailing their experiences with supplier diversity programs. The survey does not represent a random, stratified, or representative sample of all women business owners in the United States. Instead, the results obtained apply only to the women surveyed. Second, our team reviewed the data collection of supplier diversity information that is publicly advertised for all members of the S&P 500. This was to gain a perspective of what women business owners can see when they go looking at potential corporate clients. Finally, we conducted 15 in-depth interviews with supplier diversity leaders at large corporations. The goal of all three of these research avenues was to provide synchronized recommendations to the NWBC on ways that we can improve women's access to the corporate market.
One of the things that makes your project unique is the scale of the survey. I understand that over 800 women responded. But more than this, the project is unusual for the way it engages so many perspectives on their own program. It would have been incomplete to simply gather information for the women business owners who participate, just like it would have been out of balance to only interview the corporate officials. I understand that several of the key themes were reinforced by the results of the three aspects of your analysis. What were some of those findings?
That's right. First, we would like to talk about transparency and relationships and some of the room for growth that we've identified in communication between corporations and women-owned businesses. As you can see on this slide, we have calculated a transparency score for the number of companies within the S&P 500. For this research, we examined the S&P 500 corporate websites to determine if they had three pieces of information available. First, certifications accepted by the program. Second, information required or collected as part of registration. And third, program offerings. That is, what could women business owners participating expect to receive as part of the program? It's important to note that just because a program did not list a particular part of its program publicly, that it doesn't have it. Many programs that do not list things could be very robust. So on this figure, we can see corporations that listed 1, 2, or 3 of the qualifications that we listed just now have a transparency score shown. One issue that women face is difficulty in ascertaining what the programs offer. In fact, many programs are not business development programs, but instead are designed to ensure that diverse suppliers, including women, have an equal opportunity to compete for contracts on their merits. One other thing that we learned is that supplier diversity is no longer a good thing to do. Instead, it is a business imperative, and women add value to the supply chain.
So as you had noted earlier, it is critical to note that because a program doesn't publicly advertise a particular aspect of their supplier diversity program, it doesn't mean that the company doesn't have a robust program, but the increased transparency of these corporate supplier diversity requirements and the offerings helps our women business owners to understand exactly what is expected of them when engaging with these programs to seek contracts. That transparency is just hugely helpful. It also makes the matching process more effective and efficient for both parties. So Emma, among certifications accepted, information required and collected, and program offerings, what was the most common arena in which corporations did not provide information?
The most commonly omitted piece of information on corporate websites was program offerings. So that includes items like mentor-protege programs and formal introductions. Corporations may benefit from offering such information because they convey to potential suppliers what they are actually offering and instead reduce the amount of suppliers asking questions about administrative features.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that insight with us. Which certifications were most commonly accepted?
The two most commonly accepted certifications, based on what's publicly shown on the corporate websites, were WeBank and NMSDC.
I certainly am glad to hear that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So it's important to remember that businesses can obtain corporate contracts without certification, but it is difficult to engage with corporate supplier diversity programs without being certified, since the programs use that as a mechanism to ensure that they are contracting with companies that are diverse-owned.
Yes, again, I think it's a form of transparency for them that they know that there's a bona fide woman-owned business that is actually approaching them for the type of work that is being discussed.
Exactly.
Did you find that the transparency that you were evaluating varied by industry or geography or any other trends you might have noticed?
Well, we looked at the members of the S&P 500. So in terms of geography, we didn't see any big differences because of the global and national nature of those companies. But in terms of industry, we did see some trends, particularly in the type of information that corporations require as part of their registration process. Industries such as consumer staples or businesses that move lots of goods were listed more information requirements on their website than did other companies such as technology.
That's a wonderful, wonderful insight. I look forward to drilling down more on that for the explanation. Let's talk some more about the program offerings. I know that you looked very specifically at things like education programs, introductions, mentorship, and training. Can you talk with us a little bit about that?
Sure. The major theme that echoed throughout this research was that women business owners wanted to build relationships to overcome transparency issues. This also was represented as a method to gauge the chances of success in securing a contract. Oh, as shown, well, the figure would show, if it were presenting properly, you can see that the biggest item that women desired out of a corporate supplier diversity program was to receive introductions to decision makers in the contracting process. It's important to contrast this with what we heard from supplier diversity managers in our interview process, which noted that there may be a disconnect in what the women business owners want and how the programs actually work. Namely, that women-owned businesses do not generally receive direct access to the buyers because in many cases that is the key function of the supplier diversity department and manager.
Absolutely. I know we deal with so many of those supplier diversity professionals as well as those chief procurement officers, and they've really I wouldn't say it's set up as gatekeepers as people really take that to be the case, but their supplier diversity professionals are really looking for the right fit of certified businesses, whether they be women, minority, or whatever classification they might be, and trying to ensure that we're having them prepared so that when they come in to have a discussion with final decision makers or with those who are influencing, that they've got all the right understanding of that particular company as well as the need of the company as well. So the disconnect about relationships is really important to understand. As we all know, strong relationships can be developed when expectations are clear on both sides. So that importance of transparency is really there for our women. Both women business owners and corporations can make some strides to improve outcomes all the way from introductions all the way through to matchmaking and contract notice. Because corporations want contracts with suppliers whose offerings are both exceptional and well aligned to a specific need, requests for proposals are generally extended to a list of businesses whose capabilities are well understood, well developed, and clearly matched to the contract in question. Prospective suppliers may see greater success in gaining these corporate contracts by demonstrating that they have not just the capacity, but also the targeted expertise. And again, those supplier diversity professionals can help prepare our women business owners to have those discussions. Although corporations may not want to telegraph the specifics of upcoming contracts publicly, corporate supplier diversity programs and professionals can and should aim for increased transparency about their general needs. For example, corporate personnel can identify general sectors in which contracting opportunities will be available in a quarter or provide general information about how to identify contracting opportunities. You see this on the government side in some of their listings as well as related trade journals, and in some case demonstrated through contractors who are doing what would be considered first-tier work.
Thanks, Pam. That's an excellent segue into the next point. The second key theme from this research report is the outstanding potential that Tier 2 programs offer for interim scale-up steps in the context of supplier diversity programs. The figure here illustrates what Tier 2 is. So in Tier 1, a corporation, hopefully women-owned, contracts directly with a corporate entity to provide goods or services. In Tier 2, a second company contracts with the first-tier company to provide goods and services, moving up the supply chain. Suppliers should maximize their opportunities to contract with larger businesses by seeking out Tier 1 contracts when appropriate, but should also consider Tier 2 contracts, those in which they supply a prime contractor for a corporation. This is a viable means to test your mettle and also scale up capacity and receipts. Tier 2 is not second-rate. It's a valuable opportunity. In our research, we found out several key points about Tier 2 programs. First, Tier 2 programs varied substantially. While some corporations require Tier 2 reporting, others do not. However, the trend is towards increasing spend and tracking around Tier 2. In talking to the leaders, the interview questions explicitly asked corporate supplier diversity professionals about their company's Tier 2 supplier diversity efforts. While this concept is predefined by the question, the interview results offered a variety of responses. In some cases, companies had nation or formal Tier 2 programs without set Tier 2 spend or reporting requirements. In contrast, several other corporations had well-established Tier 2 programs that had been in effect for many years. Tier 2 programs are an excellent avenue for first-time women-owned suppliers to gain valuable and necessary experience and demonstrate their expertise. Supplier diversity professionals indicated that they often encouraged women-owned firms to seek out relationships with primes to begin as a Tier 2 supplier instead of a Tier 1 supplier. However, several interviewees noted reluctance among women-owned businesses and other diverse-owned businesses to act as Tier 2 suppliers instead of prime suppliers. To that end, women business owners who neglect Tier 2 opportunities do themselves a disservice in terms of both current and future opportunities by not recognizing the magnitude of Tier 2 as an opportunity.
Totally agree. I love how you started off with the fact that Tier 2 programs are not second-rate. You can absolutely be highly successful in growing and scaling your business through a Tier 2 activity and, in fact, build the experience that you need to demonstrate. We often work with our women business owners and are debriefing on why did a woman business owner get a certain contract, or why was she competitive in certain areas and not competitive in others. And in this particular area, when discussing Tier 2, we certainly find that the issues you addressed on size and experience can be very well addressed with being a Tier 2 supplier first. We certainly don't advocate for people to do Tier 2 when the type of item that they're buying really should be Tier 1, or the way they should be engaging with our women and minority businesses should be at a Tier 1 level, but the opportunity with Tier 2 is tremendous. I'll talk very generally about an area which is staff augmentation and enhanced project IT resources. Many corporations have a large corporation that they work with that they refer to as a managed service provider for them. Often, one of the best ways that a woman-owned business can get experience and provide a lot of business within a corporation is to be a Tier 2 in that managed service provider relationship. And in fact, many of you may know Nina Vaca of the Pinnacle Group. And Nina has grown her business significantly by starting off as a smaller Hispanic business, where she was very much focused on taking very small portions of work, and has grown herself to be one of the largest Latina businesses, women-owned Latina businesses out there, because she worked through the Tier 2 process, where she now is the Tier 1 managed service provider in many, many large corporations. And so success doesn't happen overnight, but it is a great way to introduce yourself within the supply chain, provide your success, and scale up your business. So look at our website where we discuss Her Own Boss and the stories where people are successful in growing their business, and many of those have used that Tier 2 channel to grow. I think one of the biggest insights that we see in dealing with corporations when it comes to the Tier 2 program is that those large corporations that have Tier 2 programs, when they require that their Tier 2 partners report their spend back to them, that is where we see Tier 2 contracting being the most successful. So I would encourage any of our corporate members who are on the phone who may not be requiring your suppliers to do Tier 2 reporting, that you do in fact start that Tier 2 requirement. Again, it creates more and more transparency. It allows you to know how much of that Tier 2 spend you're influencing, and it really promotes that there are tremendous Tier 2 opportunities out there. So as I mentioned at the top of our conversation, the National Women's Business Council wants to use our research to incite action. So it's important to discuss how to move the needle, and in particular, what government stakeholders should know. Emma?
Of course. And from our research, we have a few recommendations that pertain to government stakeholders. In general, the government should encourage corporations' efforts to increase their purchasing commitment to women-owned businesses. In particular, through their actions, policymakers can encourage corporations to improve efficiency for both prospective suppliers and the corporations themselves by sharing information and publicly communicating information about supplier requirements for large-scale contracts. They can also encourage the scaffolding of small businesses' growth through Tier 2 programming by developing and promoting capacity assessments for small business owners so that they can identify and achieve their growth goals, and by publicly celebrating and encouraging well-developed Tier 2 corporate supplier diversity programs. In general, the government can support the expansion of supplier diversity efforts towards women entrepreneurs by creating incentives to do more business, not only with small businesses overall, but specifically with women-owned businesses.
Beyond policymakers that are external stakeholders, such as certifiers like WeBank, that also play an important role supporting women business owners as they scale up their companies, particularly through corporate contracting and supporting corporations who seek to build the most successful programs. By encouraging corporations' efforts to contract with a diverse pool of suppliers, policymakers can support the success of women-owned businesses nationwide and improve opportunities for women to access the corporate supply chain, thereby strengthening the overall U.S. economy. Thank you, Emma and Lee, for joining us here today and for sharing the results of this important research. If any of you are interested in learning more about the outcomes of this week, please visit www.nwbc.gov, where this report has just been released this morning, and there is a brief synopsis of all, and it has been posted today. Carla, we're happy to turn this back over to you.
Thank you so much, Pam. That was an outstanding conversation, and thank you, PQC, Emma, and Lee. That was really terrific and really added a lot of perspective to the report that's now, as you mentioned, Pam, on the website. Now, I'd like to kick off our mini speaker series where we will hear summaries of major policy wins for small business owners and a look ahead at potential issues of impact to women businesses coming up in the future. To start, I am pleased to introduce the Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Administrator Maria Contreras-Sweet. As a business leader, California State Cabinet official and entrepreneur, Ms. Contreras-Sweet's achievements in bringing efficiencies and modernization to large-scale organizations have earned her international acclaim. Her drive to bring SBA into the digital age and expand into broader domestic and global markets has yielded record results in lending and contracting for small businesses. The administrator started 3 businesses, including a community bank in downtown Los Angeles, focused on small and medium-sized businesses, where she served as its executive chairwoman for 7 years. Prior, she served as the California Cabinet Secretary of the Business, Transportation, and Housing Agency, where she oversaw 44,000 employees, a $14 billion budget, and 14 state departments, including the Departments of Transportation, Highway Patrol, Housing, Financial Institutions, Corporations, Real Estate, and the DMV. She is a founding director of the California Endowment, and she has served on the boards of Blue Cross of California and numerous nonprofit organizations. She sees entrepreneurship as a force that can change lives and lift up whole communities around the world. Administrator, I will turn it over to you to tell us about the Small Business Administration's wins for women business owners over the last 4 years, and to point out future policy areas that women entrepreneurs should look out for.
Everybody. Carla?
No, you're with everybody.
Yes. Yes, Esther.
Hi, all. This is Esther Morales, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Women's Business Council. And Carla, I wanted to turn it back over to you. We are waiting. We're just notified that the administrator will be a few minutes more. She's in a meeting right now. So, Carla, I want to turn it back over to you to see if you want to talk about the organizations that represent women business owners that are part of the council.
Well, since they are all with us, why don't we let each of them tell us a little bit about their organizations. And obviously, we just heard from Pam, and thank you very much, Pam, for giving us the background on WeBank. That was extremely helpful. And so now, why don't we hear from NAWBO?
Thank you, Carla. This is Jen Earl. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the CEO of the National Association of Women Business Owners. We are an organization of over 58 chapters across the United States, representing the voice of the 10 million women business owners around the country. The 58 chapters each run individually, operating educational resources, bringing in speakers, allowing them to network, relationship build, and grow their businesses. Our mission is to propel women business owners into that next sphere of influence. Can we keep going?
Yes, please. And then we'll go to Dr. Marsha Firestone.
Awesome. We bring our members together for an annual conference yearly. This year it's going to be in Minneapolis on October 18th and 19th, and look forward to seeing a number of those that are participating on the phone today there as well. Marsha?
Yes, thank you. I'm very pleased to be here and to work with the National Women's Business Council, representing the Women Presidents Organization. WPO is a peer advisory group for $1 million plus businesses. So in order to join WPO, your revenues must be at least $1 million if you are service-based, $2 million if you are product-based. The average revenues of our members is close to $14 million. The average number of employees are 98, and the average number of years in business are 20. WPO has 134 chapters on 6 continents now. In fact, we are very pleased that 20% of our members are international. We have 13 chapters in Canada, 4 in South Africa, 2 in the UK, 1 in Sweden, 1 in Turkey. We have them all over because what we have learned is that there are women who need the same kinds of business education that the WPO provides. And even though they don't live here, that they really have some of the same issues that our domestic members have. So WPO, our goal is to help accelerate growth, enhance competitiveness, and promote economic security for our members, for their families, and for their employees. We work only with second-stage entrepreneurs, so you have to be at a certain level, you have to run the company, and you have to have some business, you have to have some ownership, although we don't define the level of ownership, allowing our members to seek funding if they need it. So we actually work with the 4 C's. The 4 C's describe who we are. We collaborate in a confidential setting with non-competitive businesses who make a commitment to support each other. And our tagline, I think, says very much about who we are. We are we're an organization who we reach further together. And that is about bringing the genius that already exists out of the group.
Okay, outstanding. And now I'll give you Marsha Bailey, Association of Women's Business Centers.
Hi, I just wanted to check and make sure my line is unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, so I'm the chair of the board of the Association of Women's Business Centers. We represent the approximately 110 women's business organizations around the country that are one of the SBA's 3 major resource partners. We provide a variety of services for women starting and growing small businesses. The AWBC actually works to build the capacity of those centers by promoting best practices, providing leadership training, and then we also provide advocacy support to ensure that women's business centers get the kind of support and funding from the federal government that women need to start and build effective businesses.
Well, thank you so much, Marsha. And now I'd like to turn it over to Rose Wang, who's representing WIP.
Good afternoon. I am very happy to represent Women Impacting Public Policy, otherwise known as WIP. I am on the board of WIP, and we are a nonpartisan public policy advocacy organization. Through our Coalition Partners programs, we represent roughly 500,000 women business owners throughout the country. And some of the issues that we really hone in on are highlighted by 2 recent reports, and I say 2 recent, in the last 6 months. One is our platform that talks about the 10 things Congress and administration need to know about women entrepreneurs. We took this platform to both Republican and Democratic national conventions in the summer and have actively engaged with both campaigns for the election and now are engaged with President-elect's organization as well. Another progress we made was publishing a report on women-owned small businesses and why they're shut out of federal government's most lucrative contracts. So if you are a women-owned business who are trying to get into the public sector procurement by federal government, this is a report really worth reading and looking into why. We are basically the voice for women in business in our nation's capital, advocating for economic opportunities and legislative process. I turn it back over to you, Carla.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rose. And again, thank you to all of the council members representing the outstanding organizations that serve women entrepreneurs in this country. And now I've just introduced the administrator, as you all know, so I would like to turn the mic over to her to give us her outstanding comments on what this administration has accomplished on behalf of women's entrepreneurship. Administrator Contreras-Sweet.
I love the way you say that, Ms. Harris. Thank you very much. Nice to hear us. So do we have all the members on today?
Yes, we do, all with the exception of 3. But all of the council members are here.
Well, let me just start by wishing everybody a beautiful holiday season. It is a beautiful day in Washington, D.C. today, and so I'm delighted to be with you. I just lament that we're not together in person so we could do a beautiful walk together. It's just lovely outside. Anyway, but we're always so grateful to Carla for her, to say generous leadership is an understatement. Let me just say, if there is anything anybody knows about Ms. Harris, she is passionate about women's entrepreneurship. She loves this council. And, I think the most compelling compliment to anybody is when you feel that they have definitely owned something. And so we are so grateful. I know that the President joins me in extending a heartfelt, generous thank you to Carla Harris, for the incredible leadership that she has brought to this agency and specifically to this council. She loves the council. She makes enormous sacrifices to put in a lot of time. So I know that you all join me in thanking her. And Carla, again, just a big hug and a big, shout out for all that you have done on behalf of women across this country.
Well, thank you, Administrator. It's been my honor to serve.
Let me just say that we have been, great partners in service here. Just for everybody's edification, I think you've probably gone through a long overdue orientation, so you know that the National Women's Business Council is a big part of what SBA does. We have a series of offices that there's probably none that I enjoy more. Well, except that I did meet with our veterans this morning. I do like that one too. But we have special programs that come out on our budget, and that we help the staff and the SBA makes the appointment, so it's been my pleasure, my honor to have been the appointing officer of some of you, my predecessor, others of you. But the president appoints the chairman, and then the SBA administrator, the cabinet member, appoints the members. And so I think it makes for a really nice combination of leadership. So we're just delighted that it's all come together and that we have great staff, and all of this shows a great deal of dedication on behalf of Carla. You know that you've heard me say before, it will be forever, I think, the joy of my life, the honor of my life to have served as President Obama's voice for small business on his cabinet and across the country. I can't tell you how much he appreciates and respects entrepreneurs and small business and innovators, disruptors, hackers, all of it. He hosts events at his White House, from maker fairs to, just anything around entrepreneurship. He calls himself a nerd, which I love, and he takes the time to personally write articles in magazines like Wired, and so this is his space. And I think if I were a betting woman, I'd say this is where he's headed. So it's been a great joy to be his voice and to help lift entrepreneurship around the world, but particularly with women, and traveling with our ambassador for women around the world, and to lift up your voices and the body of work that you've done, and to be able to share that work around the world. I am really pleased that we've been able to expand opportunities. I think that from the very beginning, the staggering numbers of women entering this field. When I read that over 1,000 new women-owned businesses are launched in this country every single day, that's a big responsibility that we all share. And so we have to take note that while that's a big, important number, with today's technology, we can be very specific to make sure that we're also addressing the needs of rural women, of urban women, of women of color from different immigrant populations, for example. So I think that, that's a charge for us to make sure that, it used to be when I was growing up, everything was around mass communications, and now we can get down to the digit. And so just seeing how people, particularly women of color, are starting businesses at even a more accelerated rate than others, it's very, very impressive. More women are choosing the entrepreneurial path. They want control over their own lives, and I'm convinced, and I guess, Congress will sort this out in the future, but the fact that the President passed ACA, from what I hear in the visits that I've made, it's allowed more women in corporate America who are stuck, who have faced glass ceilings, to not be in a locked-in position and to be able to take their health care with them, to not be denied for pre-existing conditions. And so I hope that sorts out and that, certain components of ACA could become nonpartisan and we can continue to allow more women to start their businesses. Well, we know that men are launching businesses at twice the rate of women with twice the capital. It makes it all important for us to address this disparity. 50% of all venture capital, 15%, we know that we're 50% of the population, but I've heard that the number is even much lower, so I don't know who gave me this 15%. I think it's a little high, but 15% is only going to women, and so I think we need to address that. Two-thirds of all capital is concentrated in 3 states, and we know that that's California, Massachusetts, and New York, and so when we actually dug down deeper, it was concentrated in 25 zip codes. Women can deserve all across the country access to capital. So I think that remains a challenge for all of us. We have to address this and continue to work hard to make more progress. Last year, in terms of our Office of Capital Access, for example, we really looked hard at this. And I was so pleased that when we hunkered down and zeroed out fees on loans under $150,000, we were able to get, that was one. 2, we were able to recruit credit unions to do more lending. We were able to get more of our counseling centers to focus on recruiting women. We reached out into incubators to get access to more women. Anyway, there was just a whole series of things that allowed us to get to a 42% increase in capital available, which represents $3.8 billion that incrementally made available to women-owned businesses. So I think this is good progress. Let's keep this momentum going. Again, women are particularly interested in the microloans, and so we're trying to recruit more intermediaries that include women. This year, we were able to increase also a program that we call Community Advantage. I don't know if any of you have been briefed on that program, but our core lending service is called 7A. It's the guarantee loan program that SBA puts out, but it only was available through banks. We wanted to make sure that this product was also available through nonprofit lenders that were working with women. So we launched a program called Community Advantage, and that's helped us get an additional $93 million out the door through these lenders. So again, for a woman who needed $10,000, $15,000, or $20,000, these dollars matter. So I hope that you'll also track this Community Advantage loan, the microloan intermediaries, the women's business centers that we have across the country that have been such critical partners with us, the WIP, the Women Investing in Public Policy. All of these nonprofits that are strong partners with all of us matter, and together we've been able to get to an increase of 42% as I outlined. The next point that I wanted to share is that we at SBA, when I arrived, what I saw is that SBA counseling offices were inside a federal space. And so in my one-on-one meeting with POTUS, I just said, I want to build for you what we would call modern offices where we can get out of federal space and make them look like Apple offices in malls. And he was very, very excited about the idea. So we were both exuberant. And then I came back only to learn that sometimes we're in 10, 15, 20-year leases in these federal spaces. And so what we thought that we would do is try a different strategy, and that is how do we take down the walls of SBA and our SCORE offices that are in these federal spaces. And so what we did is we launched what we call an growth accelerator competition, where now we deployed our field team with technology, mobile devices, an iPhone, laptop, and we said get out of the offices and grow by extending yourselves into these accelerators, innovation hubs, whatever nomenclature you want to assign to them. And I have to tell you, doing that, we have found our way to some exciting places I ran into a place in San Diego called My Startup XX for the female chromosome, where they're teaching young girls to code and to disrupt. I ran into a place called the Hura Lab, where they're attracting women to come in and to think about new ways to start businesses. I ran into a place, an accelerator that we call Juniper, with the last three letters HER. It was founded by Z. Wurstel and Francine Spinelli in Williamsburg here in Virginia, after they learned that 75% of women business owners can't grow their business past the micro-enterprise level, and so they're doing work around that. Their Remote Business Accelerator offers female-centric support. It helps women navigate through the many moving parts that come with the growing challenges of business and managing life and the complexities of all of that. So that's been working really well, and it's allowed us to get to more women and to help them navigate through their journey of entrepreneurship. With so many of you across the country, we came up with a great name called Innovator, the last three letters HER, and that continues to be what we call our version of Shark Tank-like competitions. We've had great corporate sponsors that have come in, and I think the first year we launched about 50 competitions. The next year it was 100, and I'm not sure, maybe Aaron could tell us how many we're at now. But I'm so glad that Innovator has become an important brand and something that is now working, a program that is now working across the country to attract women to not just disrupt their lives, things that matter to them, to make their lives easier, but I'm hoping that you will help us reach women in places that normally they aren't, in DARPA, in cybersecurity. How do we keep our men and women safe when we're at war? What's the technology that we need, the systems, the detection systems that we need, the radar systems? And so I'm hopeful that through Innovator we can continue to work to make our way through that body of work. Continuing on with helping women access capital, I hope that you have all now been briefed on our SBIC program, the Small Business Investment Companies. I've just outlined our microloans and the 7A, and we have a 504 product, which is more real estate-oriented, larger projects. But for many who don't have the collateral or are looking more for equity capital, we have these companies, the Small Business Investment Companies, where we fund existing private equity funds, and we leverage their capital by a 2-to-1, sometimes a 3-to-1. We can do 1-to-1, or we don't have to do a match. But in any case, these SBICs help to get mezzanine, as I said, equity, and even conventional debt into many women-owned businesses across the country. So if any of you know about women who need the other kind of capital, or have women who have a great deal of resources and are interested in investing in women, I urge you to go to SBIC to learn more about that. I am so proud of the progress that we have made. We have brought this program up to record lending levels, as our conventional lending, and both of these programs, our conventional 7A, 504, and the SBICs, are now running at zero subsidy, zero charge to the taxpayer dollars, because the recourse has been so strong, the default rate has been so low. We're at the lowest default rate in the history of SBA. We're at 1.49% default rate. So this is remarkable, and it says a lot about the viability of women's businesses. I asked our team to go and really conduct an assessment of our SBICs, and I hope that you were able to get a report out, a readout on this report. But it had three important findings. First, fundamentally, it said that when you look at our private equity funds that we are funding here through the SBA, that we are more apt, way over-indexed in our portfolio of women-led funds, and where women are partners in funds. And so that was, something that I expected, but I was very proud to see. The second finding was that women-owned funds are more apt to invest in other women-owned funds, which we expected. But third, and I think the most compelling, and I hope that you take away and amplify at every turn, is that women funds, women-led funds, perform at least as well as their male counterparts. And so I just say to the guys, there's no excuses anymore for not allowing women to run funds. And so I encourage more women to engage in that field. And I've been working with SBIC to make sure that we're bringing more people online. And we've been recruiting and going across the country, hosting meetings around the world to make sure that that we get more of this. The real exciting announcement that we made of late, which I want to recommend to all of you, is that we have, one of the things that I worked on all of my life is this notion of the glass ceiling. And while we think we've made progress, we haven't made enough yet. And so I thought, well, why don't we lead? It would be so important. So we've launched a program through our Office of Investment and Innovation called On Board. We've entered into a partnership with LinkedIn where we ask them now to allow us to, if you will, feature women who are ready to get on boards. And we're challenging at SBA all of our SBIC funds to get more women on theirs. We're saying if you're asking us to support you, then we think that you ought to be true to American values and make sure that there are women running your boards as well. So we want to lead by example, and we think we can continue to do that. I could go on, but the last thing that I'll tell you that I'm so proud of is the fact that after a serious conversation with Senator Levin as he was going through the defense appropriations, we talked about the importance of getting more contracts to women, knowing that we had reached record levels of contracting, but that we had not met the goal for women was something that I just couldn't have on my back. And so I asked Carl Levin if he wouldn't work with us to create sole source authority. And it was just wonderful to see how women activated and sent letters, and the women members of the Senate weighed in. And Carl said, you have quite a movement there. And so he led the way to make sure that he added that into the NDAA that allowed us to get sole source and finally reach, for the first time in the history of the country, of the 5% goal for contracting with women. It's a low goal, but we hope it remains the floor now and not the ceiling anymore. So these are just some of the accomplishments that together with all of you, the NGOs and you women in your own businesses and those of you in corporate America, together we've been able to do. But continue. There's so much more, and I hope that you'll look these programs up like the certifysba.gov, where we're able now to get women-owned businesses to navigate through the process of self-certification at record levels, the mentor-protege programs, the VYs, we're helping women in uniform transition out by providing them their very own classes to be able to launch their business. It's just unbelievable. So I guess lastly, I'll just say that we're connecting women around the world through our Office of International Trade by making certain that women here can connect with women in other parts of the country. Just in the last 2 years, I entered into 21 trade agreements just in the Americas. And so we hope that this work, knowing that entrepreneurs don't see borders, they just see opportunities to change and to improve humanity. So we are hopeful that that work will continue as well. And lastly, let me just say thank you also to the Women Business Centers across the country. They're part of our resource operation along with our SBDCs and our district offices. But these centers are particularly, of course, important to making certain that they're connecting with disadvantaged women in particular. And so all the meetings that we've had with them, they've processed over 140,000 clients last year alone. And so that's the kind of foot traffic that they get. So you can just see that there's so much here that has been done. We hope that you help to lock these programs in and spawn new ones that I know that you will continue to think about and explore. And it just makes me think back to when I was first asked to serve on the Federal Glass Ceiling Commission back in the mid-'90s, where our big headline was that 97% of corporate boards were held by white males. And so we've got still a lot of work to do there. I know that you'll all join me in that work. And I hope to see you on the other side when I rejoin my past in the private sector. I'm looking forward to that and to watching you with great admiration and respect for the commitment that you've made to our country's female entrepreneurs, knowing that they have in you a strong, ardent voice so that they can be successful and provide for their families and their children and theirs. And we continue to make this country a great, prosperous one. my very best to you again for the holidays, and I hope that you're all happy and healthy in the new year. Thank you, Carla.
Administrator Contreras-Sweet, a heartfelt thank you for your leadership and all that you have accomplished. Congratulations again on leading the SBA to finally reach the 5% goal for contracting with women business owners. You have done an outstanding job, and thank you for your commitment and your passion. As we all can see, the administrator believes that entrepreneurship helps people realize dreams and brings dignity to those who embrace its challenges. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Meredith West, Policy Director for Chairman David Vitter on the U.S. Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Ms. West is responsible for all program and policy issues concerning the SBA, including lending programs and investment, trade and exports, technical assistance and business counseling, government contracting and procurement, economic development, disaster recovery assistance, women's procurement, and business development. Veterans entrepreneurship is also a part of her platform, innovation and agency budget management and oversight. She's a 15-year veteran of small business policy. She has been with the committee for nearly 7 years, previously serving under former Senator Olympia Snowe and also Senator James Risch. Prior to her tenure with the committee, she served as Assistant Administrator for Policy and Strategic Planning at the SBA, 2007 to 2009, where she focused on re-engineering the agency's disaster program and bolstering small business exporting. She's been a lifelong advocate for solving some of the greatest issues facing women business owners. So, Meredith, please take it away.
All right. Thank you, Carla, for having me here today. I, like the administrator, wish that we could have all been together in person, but as a good conservative, I appreciate your wise management of a limited budget and understand that all these meetings can't be in person. So I'm delighted to join you. I thought I would spend just a couple of minutes recapping some of our accomplishments and wins for small businesses from the 114th Congress, which has been the last 2 years, and then touch on our agenda for next year. The chairman of the Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship for the 114th Congress has been Senator David Vitter of Louisiana. Our ranking member has been Senator Jean Shaheen of New Hampshire, and I want to say from the outset that Senator Shaheen has been a great partner, and her staff has worked side by side with us to advance some key priorities for small businesses this year. The committee has been more active in the past 2 years than any time in recent memory. We've had 23 hearings in D.C., 18 field hearings all around the country, and numerous roundtable discussions. We've heard testimony from over 175 witnesses, usually about the disastrous negative impacts of Obama administration policies, including the new Waters of the United States rule, regulatory burdens that have hampered access to capital for small businesses, job-killing new labor policies that have come about from executive branch overreach, ignoring the Regulatory Flexibility Act requirements that protect small businesses, and then costly and stifling health care policies under Obamacare. At the same time, however, we found common ground with Ranking Member Shaheen and other Democrats on the committee, passing 32 bipartisan bills, which is 22 more than Chairman Vitter's predecessor over a much longer period. 8 of those bills have become law, and as we speak, the Senate is passing the NDAA after a very strong vote on cloture to limit debate, so hopefully later today we'll add to that total. Some of the things that we've passed this Congress that may interest you all include the Rise After Disasters Act, which provides more immediate assistance to affected small businesses through SBA resource partners and gets capital out the door to disaster victims when tragedy strikes more quickly and effectively. You know, obviously and unfortunately, the chairman knows the devastating effects of natural disasters, as Louisiana has sustained more than its fair share, especially this year. And he the administrator has been incredibly supportive of our state and the chairman's efforts to aid the people of Louisiana, and we are grateful to her and her team for coming down to the state and working hand in hand with us to help our people rebuild and recover. It's going to be a long process there. The committee has also passed an increase, and we've seen enacted into law an increase in the SBA's 7A loan program cap, enabling the agency to get more loans in the hands of small businesses, permanent authority to enable refinancing under the 504 program, an increase in the family of funds limit under the SBIC program. I heard the administrator touting the success there. I just want to note that Congress, led by Republican House and Senate, have been partners in that, and those increases could not be seen without changes in those authorizations passed by the Congress. We've enacted legislation that turned the successful pilot of the STEP program for small business exporters into an authorized program with more targeted and effective assistance for businesses trying to expand into foreign markets. Permanent fee relief on SBA loans to veterans, something we're very proud of, and Senator Shaheen was a real champion of. And improvements to small business contracting programs to increase access and accountability, especially for women entrepreneurs. I know that's something the Council's been very involved in. We've provided recommendations and feedback as we've worked with the set aside and reaching the 5% goals. It's something we're very pleased about. As I mentioned, the Senate's voting right now on the NDAA. One key thing, there are a number of positive developments for small businesses in the NDAA this year, but chief among them for my boss is a reauthorization of the Small Business Innovation Research Program, SBIR, for 5 years. And we've passed this now nearly a year before it expires. The last time those programs were up for reauthorization, it took 14 different extensions to be able to get to a deal. The chairman has made working in a bipartisan, bicameral way with the administration, the White House Office of Technology, the SBA, a big priority to get everybody together and ensure consistency and for firms that are involved in creating some of our most innovative products that serve federal interest and commercial interests. One other thing that I want to mention that's been a priority for the chairman this year involves highlighting and addressing trends in entrepreneurship, specifically startups. Senator Vitters found it valuable to look at the economic data around small business, as well as hearing directly from small business owners in Louisiana and around the country. And while there's certainly some bright spots, much of the data is still troubling. Long-term data from the Kauffman Foundation indicate the share of all firms that came from startups fell from 16.8% to 8% just over 2 decades. Employment in those firms fell 65% in the same period. In the U.S., 50% of all startup activity has occurred in just 20 out of the 3,143 counties in the U.S., and those counties represent just 17% of the population. Again, that's a trend that's very troubling. And the administrator talked about my next point related to investment capital remaining elusive to most small firms, with venture capital really sequestered on the East and West Coast. Top 3 states, New York, Massachusetts, and California, received 78% of all investment in 2015, according to the National Venture Capital Association. And half of America's metro areas failed to capture even a single dollar of new venture investment. This concentration, extreme concentration, suggests that that this important source of capital is really off limits to startup and scale-up businesses, and we know that's true for women-owned firms. The chairman's argued that this explains why millions of Americans feel the recovery hasn't reached them, reached small businesses, and he's urged his successors on both sides of the aisle to chart a new course. as policies in the upcoming Congress and administration are focused on all Americans and all small businesses, not just those in a few urban areas. As some of you may know, Senator Vitter is retiring from the Senate next month, honoring his commitment to term limits as a citizen legislator. The committee assignments for next year have not been firmed up yet, but next in line for the chairmanship here in the Senate is Senator Risch from Idaho. As Carla mentioned, as part of my introduction, Senator Risch served as the committee's top Republican or ranking member for 2 years prior to Chairman Vitter taking over. Looking forward in the coming year, I expect the committee to focus largely on supporting our president-elect. The Senate will be very busy confirming Mr. Trump's nominees to run the government, and our committee will be a part of that process. Specifically, we have the SBA Administrator, Deputy Administrator, and Chief Counsel for the Office of Advocacy under our jurisdiction. So the confirmation process, vetting, advice, and consent process for the Senate will consume much of the year and our committee. The Senate also promises to be very busy with some key priorities early next year. None of these are a secret, including repealing Obamacare, enacting the first major reforms to our tax system since Ronald Reagan, rolling back a number of regulations that are costly and limiting to small business creation and expansion. Small businesses will be a huge part of all of those discussions, and so our committee and our counterparts in the House will likewise be very involved in those policy debates. The payroll outsourcing company Paychex highlighted a survey that employee health care and government regulations were among the top concerns of owners and executives of businesses employing between 51 and 100 workers, along with growing revenue, hiring employees, and increasing profit. I think we can expect for the new Congress and the new administration to focus on those issues that small businesses have highlighted, but negative effects and concerns they have moving forward. As for the SBA, we're eager to find out what Mr. Trump's plans are. I think we should find out more about those intentions when we get a nominee to lead the agency and as we move through the confirmation process. But I believe that we'll be working together to ensure that small businesses in all parts of America, urban and rural, are able to thrive. I would expect to see less bureaucracy concentrated in the Washington, D.C. headquarters of the SBA and more empowerment in the field and the states and communities that have been left out of so many of these investment opportunities and startup growth and job creation, and in too many cases have borne the brunt of closures and business failures. Excuse me. It is an exciting time, and as we close out 2016, I'm both proud of what the committee has achieved together, working in a bipartisan way, bicameral way, and I'm hopeful about the opportunities ahead of us in the new year. Thank you. Turn it back over to Carla now.
A huge thank you, Meredith, and we very much look forward to continuing our work with you in this upcoming year. Now, I have the honor of introducing Ms. Valerie Jarrett, Senior Advisor to the President of the United States and Assistant to the President for Public Engagement and Intergovernmental Affairs. On top of all that, Ms. Jarrett also serves as the chair for the White House Council on Women and Girls, with which the National Women's Business Council collaborates frequently. She has been a real friend to the National Women's Business Council. She's worked throughout her tenure in the White House to mobilize elected officials, business and community leaders, and diverse groups of advocates behind efforts such as to strengthen and improve access to the middle class, to boost American businesses and our economy, and to champion equality and opportunity for all Americans. She came to the White House with a background in both the public and private sectors, having served as the Chief Executive Officer of the Habitat Company in Chicago, Chairman of the Chicago Transit Board, Commissioner of Planning and Development, and Deputy Chief of Staff for Chicago Mayor Richard M. Daley. She also served as the Director of Corporate and Not-for-Profit Boards, including Chairman of the Board of the Chicago Stock Exchange, Chairman of the University of Chicago Medical Center Board of Trustees, and Director of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. With that, I welcome Ms. Jarrett to give us the highlights on what the President has done specifically for women business owners. Valerie?
Carla, good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me on to your important National Women's Business Council call. I also want to express my appreciation for your extraordinary leadership of the Business Council. We've known each other a long time, and I've just been so impressed with the terrific work that you do. You've led on behalf of large and small business owners for your whole life, and I am proud to call you my friend.
Well,
and I thank you. Oh, thanks, Carla. And I thank you to the whole National Women's Business Council and the SBA Women-Owned Business Team for all the tremendous research that you've done for the last 8 years and the work that you've put into creating opportunities for women-owned businesses. Women today, as you all know, make up nearly 29% of all U.S. business owners. And according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau, women's entrepreneurship is on the rise. From 2007 to 2012, U.S. business owners rose 27.5% for women. Yet, although the future is bright, only 10.5% of American women-owned small businesses have employees. So I'm thrilled that you're going to be discussing today how we can help more women start and, importantly, grow their small businesses. We know that small businesses are the economic engine of our country, and so it has been a top priority since day one for President Obama to help them grow and thrive. Earlier this year, we broke through an important goal when more than 5% of federal contracts were awarded to women-owned small businesses. This goal has been a top priority for the administration, and it's an example of the federal government leading by example to ensure that women thrive in small businesses across the country. This progress is due to the hard work of a lot of folks inside and outside of the Obama administration. Erin Andrew and her team and the Women's Small Business Center, led by our fabulous administrator of SBA, Contreras Sweet, you've worked across the country and have done such incredible work to increase capital for women-owned small businesses, and they have ensured that women have access to the resources that they need to start businesses of their own and grow them to their full potential. But let's face it, we still have a lot more work left to do, and that's why I am delighted that you're gathering on this call today. With your help and commitment, we will continue to provide women with the skills they need to start businesses and help them grow. And we'll continue the movement of workplace policies that allow families, working families, to thrive at both home and at work. Priorities such as increasing the minimum wage, paid family and sick leave, equal pay, workplace flexibility, affordable child care, all of the issues that 21st century workplaces that intend to compete for and attract and retain the most talented of the workforce all recognize they have to invest in these important initiatives. That's what the 21st century worker demands, and that's what it takes to be globally competitive. So I want to close the way I started by thanking you all, Carla, for your leadership, everyone for your commitment and continued partnership. We know that long after January 20th, all of the good work the folks on this team will be doing to improve your communities, ensure that women have incredible opportunities where every young girl can grow up in a world with role models that demonstrate that the sky is the limit. And just in closing, finally in closing, on a very personal note, I just want to say how much this work has meant to me. I grew up in a time when there were not a lot of women role models owning their own businesses, and I feel that the work that we've done over the course of the last 8 years in partnership with you has not only helped the businesses of today grow and expand, but it's also provided a model for our younger generation. I always say that you can't be what you can't see. And you, Carla, your team at the National Women Business Council, everyone who's participating in this call have provided leadership, role models, incentives, and inspiration to the next generation. And so as we turn the baton over, I just wanted to say how much pride that gives me. So, Carla, back to you.
Well, thank you so much, Valerie, and thank you in particular for your service, your leadership, your focus, and your commitment to this council, because it has been outstanding. And without the support of the White House, we would not have been able to accomplish some of the things that we are proud to report that we've been able to do over these last few years. So thank you, thank you, thank you on behalf of the council. And with that, as I promised at the outset of the call, I'd like to open it up for any questions that we might have for our 200-some-odd participants on today's call. The mic is now open, and as we would receive any questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just a quick reminder that you can submit a written question by selecting the Participants menu at the top of your screen and opting to Send Note to all presenters. If you're logged in using the web-based application, use the Notes tab on the right-hand side of your screen and address your notes to all moderators. All right, looks like we've got a written question in. The Supplier Diversity Report sounds really interesting. As a woman business owner, how do I get into these supplier diversity programs? Where do I start?
Okay, and I'm going to ask my partner, Council Member Pam Prince-Eason, if you can give your perspective on that. I know you did a little bit during the PQC conversation, but if you can handle this question, that would be terrific. Pam, are you still with us?
I apologize. I was on mute. Yes,
okay.
Thank you, Carla, and I appreciate it. Could the question just be repeated one time? I didn't write it down when it was said.
Absolutely. The Supplier Diversity Report sounds really interesting. As a woman business owner, how do I get into these supplier diversity programs? Where do I start?
Okay, where do you start? So there's several different ways that you can do so. If you're a woman business owner and you qualify for certification, then meaning that you are a 51% owner, operator, controller of your business, then you may want to go one of the routes where you get involved with an organization like WeBank, where we have established relationships with corporate partners who are using our organization to try to locate these women businesses that serve certain categories or industries or just certain types of spend. But there is also the option of utilizing websites like NWBC or the SBA, or doing individual research on any corporation's website, much of which you heard about through our partnership with our researchers today. There's a lot of information available on each corporate website about the program that they do have and how to make contact with their supplier diversity professional and or their Department of Supplier Diversity. And that is the best thing to do. You can read yourself on what some of their requirements are. Again, many of those will be that they're looking for, bona fide certified women-owned businesses. But there are channels available. If you're not in the position to be certified, I would recommend being involved with our business partner, NABO, who is also on the phone. Many women business owners are involved in that organization as well, and they have a tremendous annual conference as well as tremendous resources that would make you aware of supplier diversity programs. We publish on the webank.org website, so that's WBENC.org, in the America's Top Corporations area, a list of the corporations that are evaluated annually and identified as top corporations for doing business with businesses. Those programs have very robust outreach and informational programs available to you that will help you to be registered. When you look at the report, that the NWBC has commissioned here, you'll be able to see that it's outlined a number of very key points for you on what is important to understand about doing business with a corporation. And many of the public pieces of information that they looked at would be things you could do individually with any given corporation as well. So obviously I would encourage you to read the report that the National Women's Business Council has published. It is an excellent composite of some of the most active corporations involved in encouraging businesses to do business with them, as well as again, the WeBank.org website will have a list for you of those corporations that get evaluated as being the best in doing business with women and are justified with spending that is attributable to that as well. And there is also a corporate member listing on our website of all corporations, and those corporations must have supplier diversity programs. So my first and best suggestion would be to you, after you read the NWBC report, to target a few of the companies that you think you would be interested in simply by looking at their websites. And again, use organizations like ourselves or NAVO to pursue either a certified path of business or a general path of entrepreneurship.
Thank you very much, Pam. Any other questions?
All right, let's go to the next question. Is there an asset revenue cap to be a certified WBE, and is there a white paper on benefits of being a WBE?
Pam, I think this one comes back to you.
Okay, thank you, Carla. Actually, we have a lot of defined benefits of being a WBE that you can access online at webank.org, or you can see on that our 14 regional partner addresses, as well as our national office address, where we can have someone speak directly with you with the benefits of that. But much as you heard Marcia Firestone talking about second-tier businesses, or second-stage businesses, and how she helps to connect them and grow those businesses, the WeBank organization certifies the business, which leads to you being a recognized bona fide certified business, but it also provides you with many opportunities, about $650 a year if you took all of them, to interact with corporate partners or other WBEs who are looking to do business. There's exposure to different events that would skill up very specific areas to ensure that you are ready to do business with corporations. And it would be literally anything from how do I do business with a corporation to something very specific about being effective in a second-tier program in the automotive industry. So, again, I would suggest any of the organizations that are involved on the phone call, the women's business centers that are out there, all of these have resources available to you along with the SBA that can help to emphasize what comes along with one being a successful entrepreneur, but specifically with certification. We clearly do think we're the best at that, and so please access webank.org, email me specifically, or contact us through the addresses that are on the website.
Thank you. And I think we have time for one more question.
All right, here's our last question. I recently became a WBENC certified WOB and am very enthusiastic about it. Could the council please comment on whether we should expect any changes to support of WOB by companies or the new administration going forward into 2017?
And so I'll say Pam or Marcia, if you'd like to chime in on this based on what you've seen so far in these early weeks, that would be terrific.
So this is Pam. I would say that one of the things that we're very eager to do after the new administration is in place is to get together with several of the other organizations in order to do some research on what we can expect in the way of support for women business enterprises. So there are a number of rulemaking items that need further action done on those, And I think that we're finding that to the extent that as a non-political organization and as a charitable organization we're able to express needs, we will be doing so. And we partner with WIP, Women Impacting Public Policy, who's also on this call, to really begin to understand what policy making is going to do. So unfortunately, I don't think there's been I think we don't have a full understanding of what support for the entrepreneurial and small business community will look like going forward. We're obviously optimistic, and we certainly understand it's the role of all of us on this call to advocate for success of women business owners as well as changes that are needed in order for them to be successful.
Yes, and Marcia and Rose, anything that you'd like to add there?
Sure. Yeah, go ahead, Marcia.
I was just going to say that, one of the challenges for the AWBC has been to modernize the authorization of the legislation that created the Women's Business Center program. We got pretty far along on that. This year, one of the things that legislation would have done would have been to increase the funding for the individual centers for the first time since the program's inception in the late 80s. So I agree with Pam. We don't really know. We haven't gotten kind of any secret messages from the new incoming administration yet, but we will certainly reintroduce that legislation to make sure that we are able to provide the support, hopefully, not only increase the funding, but increase the number of women's business centers around the country.
Thank you. And Rose?
Thank you, Carla, for the opportunity. WIP is nonpartisan, and on behalf of all women business owners and entrepreneurs, we advocate for sensible economic policy. So we publish these 10 things and have dialogue before the president-elect became president-elect with his organization. And, of course, this is still early days, but we are optimistic and hopeful that we can continue the engagement and dialogue and make sure our women entrepreneurs' priorities and economic opportunities are assured.
Carla, I'm sorry. This is Pam. There is one thing I'd like to add, which is a bit of an ad lib, which is one of the very important roles that the President does do is appoint the chair of the National Women's Business Council. And I want to echo what was said on the call earlier today, that we hope that the new president will be able to appoint somebody that is at least half as good as you are, Carla, because all of us from the organizational perspective have such a tremendous respect for you personally, your leadership, and the difference that you make for women business owners. And we believe that we need someone of your caliber to be in that role to really ensure that policymakers are hearing the messages that they should, and that the other organizations that need to support women are doing the best that they can for women business owners. So, Carla, on behalf of all of the organizations on this call, truly, you are absolutely amazing. And, again, I only hope that the next appointee is at least half as good as you.
Well, thank you very much, Pam, and I appreciate that. And as I said, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve. So, we move on forward into 2017 with our agenda as we've planned as a council, and we'll see what we can do from here. So with that, I say the council is excited to once again put pen to paper in this upcoming year and advise a new set of leaders in the White House, U.S. Congress, and the U.S. Small Business Administration. The council will continue to focus on the issues that impact women business owners the most and on identifying the most innovative solutions to the challenges faced. By studying what each strand of the ecosystem needs and joining forces to find the solutions to the toughest challenges, we will push forward, and we will continue to advance the agenda of women entrepreneurs. And don't forget our fiscal year 2016 annual report. It will be available for you during the week of December 12th. Go to www.nwbc.gov and look for it. As we look to 2017, we will continue to conduct research that will incite greater public and private commitment, engagement with women entrepreneurs, and increase investments in expansion capital for scalable women-owned businesses. This has been an extraordinary council to work with. I look forward to this council continuing to advance the agenda for women entrepreneurs successfully, and it has been personally an awesome, awesome opportunity to work with each of you. United, we will thrive, and to everybody who attended this call, have a wonderful, happy, and blessed holiday season. Thank you.